Dr. Kannan, can we start?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Arvindraj?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Introduce Arvindraj yourself and start.
Yes, sir. Good morning to all dignitaries, faculty members, participants. This is Dr. P.S. Arvindraj, Associate Professor from AVIT. I will be the MC of today's event. I welcome you all to the special lecture on democratic tradition among the tribes of Northeast Asia towards celebrations on Indian democratic traditions, India, the mother of democracy, the journey of democracy in India. I now call upon Dr. S. Gokulakannan, NSS Program Coordinator, Vinayaga Missions Research Foundation, deemed to be university, to deliver the welcome address.
Good morning to one and all. I would like to extend my warm welcome to all distinguished guests and participants. On behalf of Vinayaga Mission Research Foundation, deemed to be university, first of all, I welcome today eminent speaker, Professor Dr. Vinu Pant, ma'am, Professor Head, Department of History at Sikkim University. Welcome you, ma'am. Next, I warm welcome to our registrar, sir, Vinayaga Mission Research Foundation, deemed to be University, Salem, Tamil Nadu. Welcome you, sir. And also, I welcome our Deputy Director, Academic, Dr. Rajan Samuel, sir, Vinayaga Mission Research Foundation, deemed to be university. Welcome, sir. And I extend my warm welcome to all the head of the institution and faculties and students of our Constituent College of Vinayaga Mission Research Foundation, deemed to be university, Salem, Tamil Nadu. Once again, welcome to all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now invite our respected registrar, Vinayaga Missions University Research Foundation, Professor Dr. B. Jayakar, who is the prime motivation of this wonderful event, to deliver the presidential address.
Good morning to all. Respected the resource person of today's lecture, Madam Professor Vinu Pant. Madam is a professor and head of the Department of History from Sikkim University, Gangtok. Dr. Rajan Samuel, our Deputy Director Academic, our Gokulakannan University NSS Coordinator, Mr. Arvind Raj, my dear faculty colleagues, students and research scholars. So today we have gotten a great opportunity to have a lecture on democratic traditions among the tribes of Northeast India as a part of the celebrations of Indian democratic traditions. So the government of India and as well as the University Grand Commission of New Delhi together they are for the past 1 year they are celebrating the various events throughout India on the event of 75th year of the independence, that is Ajatika Amrut Maga Utsav. So this is one of the event organized by this University Grand Commission that every citizen of India should know about the democratic principles and the democracy of the India. So because India is the one of the prime and foremost country where we are for the years together, thousands of the years together, we are following, it is India is in a democratic country. We are following the democratic principles. Even though we have a different states and we have, but we have a one principle that we are following the democratic principles in the all the states of India and as well as the society. So it gives now today we got an opportunity to hear the lecture from Madam about the tribes of Northeast India. What are the traditions they are following? The tribes of Northeast India. So that is a great opportunity for us, even though we are not able to visit that places, but we can able to know about these democratic traditions. We have to thank the University Grand Commission and the Ministry of Education also for arranging this kind of activities and given an opportunity. And also we thank the Madam Vinupant Madam that he has accepted the invitation of University Grand Commission and our university, and his Madam is sparing his time to be with us to on this special lecture on this democratic citizens. Madam, thank you very much for sparing your time with us for delivering this lecture on the tribes of Northeast India. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. May I now have Dr. S. Gokulakannan, NSS Program Officer, VMR of DU, for delivering the speaker's introduction.
I am privileged to introduce to our guest of honor and eminent speaker, Professor Dr. Vinupant this morning. Our distinguished guest is the professor and head of the Department of the History at Sikkim University at Gyeongtang. He has 20 years of teaching and research experience. Our speaker is passionate about research and has published 32 research papers in international and national journals. Some of his academic journal contributions include Chief Editor of Sabbath Journal of Social Science and Humanities, and Member Advisory Board Indian Historical Review Sage publication. Next, Member Advisory Board Itihas ICHR, and also Member Editorial Board International Peer Reviewed Journal Indexed. He has been awarded 4 PhD and 5 MPhils. From 2020 to the present, he is an inspiring governor nominee of First Court of Sikkim State University and also University nominee of Loyola College of Education, Nancy, and also University nominee of Nar Bahadur Bandari Degree College, Tedang. Our distinguished speaker was awarded the recognition of services provided to the Indian armies in 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now invite our chief guest to address the gathering.
Thank you, Arvindraj. First of all, I would like to extend my thanks to Registrar Sir, to Gokulakannan Sir, to Dr. Rajan Samuel, as well as you for providing me this opportunity. And also my thanks to Sir who is not able to attend, who was the main contact person from your side, who is not able to attend.
Doctor.
Yeah, because of his personal family problems. A very good morning to you all, and I hope I'll be able to meet the expectations and deliver what I want to deliver, what the content, the concept of the democratic traditions in Northeast India to you all, to make the understanding of Bharat and to make the understanding of the diversity of Bharat, yet its cultural continuity more understandingly to you all. Bharat, or the land we are all born in, is a very complex state. The narrative is complex and it cannot be defined in terms of simple polity or socio-religious terms, as unfortunately it has been tried to define, to be defined into through last several decades. It is something which cannot be understood in terms of changing dynasties or political invasions or changing political scenario all across the land. The very heart and soul of Bharat is its cultural ethos, is its tradition, and whatever traditions have continued to define it and which have survived the tale of time through thousands of years. The history of our land is so diverse that every aspect, whether it be geographical, socio-cultural, everything is diverse, and yet it can be totally understood as a fine blend of unity. The word which we generally use in political terms is unity of diversity, but we believe that instead of calling it unity of diversity, the word should be unity of diversity, because although we are diverse, yet somehow our cultural ethos, our social values, they are all unified. So we are diverse branches of the single trunk of the single tree, not different trees bound together by the same forest area. And we have stood the test of time over the ages, and we are a living entity, a living, vibrant entity which is breathing through all of its own children which reside in this land and abroad, carrying our cultural diaspora to other places. This land and its history is full of ancient wisdom and knowledge. And this wisdom is not limited to few books or few philosophical narratives or to sermons, to few sects or to few gurus, but it is disseminated across the land and it manifests itself in several forms, which we call tradition. Today, as we are all gathered here to discuss the basic concept of Bharat Lokantrasya Janani, we must first understand that democracy, as defined in general perception, is a form of government which has large scale involvement of its citizens in terms of choosing the leader who would then decide the government and its questions and frame the policies for the masses. What we need to understand here is that such definitions are constructs of the modern era and modern understanding. And if we look at the traditions of the society from this perspective, we will fail to observe the inherent democratic values ingrained in the tradition of our land and our people. As commonly perceived, democracy thus is not something restricted to the parliamentary form of government or to the Western civilizational definitions through John Locke, Rousseau, Voltaire, and others, but more so, it can be further argued that inherent democratic values is by and large something which reflects the willingness of the leader, elected or otherwise, to give credence to the opinion of his compatriots, to the opinion of his masses.
Excuse me, ma'am. We are not able to hear you.
Okay, I'll just disconnect.
Yes, ma'am. Now clear, ma'am.
Okay, it's clear. Oh, okay, fine. Maybe my mic had gone into my shot. Am I audible now? आवाज पहुंच रही है मेरी?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. So what I was telling is, if we look into the definition of democracy through Western concepts, obviously Locke and Rousseau and Voltaire and all, their definition is not applicable to our nation or our tradition, because by and large, I would like to argue that democracy is something where the willingness of the leadership, elected or otherwise, is to give guidance to his or her compatriots, to the masses who are a part of the society, not as a top-down relationship, not as something where the decision is taken at the top and has to be implemented or has to be accepted by the bottom, but as something based on vertical lines where everybody has a say and a voice in the opinion making. Now, collective decision making, or at least giving space to the voice of those who are governed, is what can be understood as grassroots democracy. But it is largely understood that by its very nature, in its very definition, it is not possible when the population is in lakhs or crores to practice a direct democracy. It is only feasible in small groups. Now, looking into this perspective, and in order to understand the nascent form of democratic institutions or practices, we can see that tribal societies by and large are small groups. They are very much capable of grassroots democracies because collective decision making is something which is possible in those groups by the cohesive nature they have, by the small social structure that they have, and by their very nature of exclusiveness as well as inclusiveness, which is a part of their existence within the nation and within the society. Now, involvement of majority of population and leadership based on quality and acceptance of the majority of the decision of the leadership, the direct decision of the leadership, all these are indicators of democracy in its nascent form, which we call the grassroots democracy or direct democracy among the tribal societies. Keeping this in mind, this particular definition in mind, that a direct democracy, which is otherwise impossible in a larger scenario in a nation like India or in any other democratic nation of the world, which we look into politically, keeping this definition of direct democracy in mind, when we approach the society of Northeast India, what we find is that it is largely inhabited by several tribal groups. The tribal groups, which are very diverse in nature, their language, their culture, their manifestations, their festivals, their festivities, their way of perceiving the nation, the way of perceiving life, their value system, they are all diverse. It is a beautiful conglomeration of the diversity which is visible there. It's a kind of mini India, mini Bharat living there, where people are very diverse and living within their small areas and zones, but living very democratically. Now, what we find is, as we look into these societies, that the presence of democratic institutions among them has been practiced for a very longer than we can understand that any such definition can even be perceived as per the Eurocentric history and historiography can even be perceived by the people of Bharat. Because Europe has a particular way of looking at our society, and it often asserts that democracy is something which originated there, and Indians have learned the democratic traditions from them. But keeping all this in mind, when we look towards these tribal societies, what we find is that the democratic practices or the Loktantric practices are so finely ingrained in their tradition and from such a long time that they are a part of their life. They cannot be separated from that. No, their everyday existence is dependent on these democratic traditions. But unfortunately, when as a historian we look into these society, or when as an anthropologist or a sociologist we delve into the traditions of these societies, the major problem that we face is of the documentation. Because the Eurocentric notion of historiography tells us that whatever is documented, only that can be relied upon. That makes a major problem. Why that makes a major problem? Because traditions are seldom mapped. And what is not mapped and what is not written, if it cannot be counted as a source, then we do not have any history of these people. But the people are not historyless. They are living there in the land for thousands of years. They have traditions which have been validated for thousands of years. They have their own value system which has been validated and which has continued for thousands of years. So to say or to assert that just because there is no written word, they do not have a history, that is absolutely wrong. So the only problem that we face is we have to go through the oral narratives, through the oral tradition. We have to become the generation to map their tradition, to write it down so that for the posterity, something is recorded and something is saved. So that when after 4 or 5 generations, someone starts questioning about the traditions of India, about the traditions of our people, we have something in writing and we can show them, see, this was the period when we started mapping it down and we have written it all for you to read, don't question, read, and then we'll sit down and argue. So the basic thing is that when we talk about the tribes anywhere, all across the world, but specifically the tribes of Northeast India, we have to build our narratives on the traditions and the age-old practices and the narratives of age-old practices, the oral narratives of age-old practices. The governance in tribal communities is largely based on the principles of ability to lead, to make a wise decision, and thus either an able-bodied man or a very sagacious elder would often lead the tribe. Thus, the practice of direct democracy is visible with the participation of one and all, except in some cases, in some tribes, not majority. In some tribes, we do find that at times those who are punished of some crime and excommunicated from the society, they are excluded from direct participation. In few tribes, women are also excluded, although generally majority women are included and slaves are also excluded at some time. But then again, I'll come back to my first point that when we are trying to understand our traditions, our tribal traditions, our native traditions, we have to, somehow let go of the Eurocentric notion of democracy and of understanding of the constructs of democracy, because the women participation, the participation of the complete population, that is also a very modern construct, even in terms of European society. Because if we go to even ancient Europe, where they say that Greco-Roman structure was responsible for democracy, even there, complete participation was not there, women participation was not there, slave participation was not there. So, aligning or imposing the modern constructs or the post-colonial constructs over the traditional society of Northeast India or the tribal structures of Northeast India would not be correct, just because the democracy as understood by the people in West or in India now, it is not in tune with the traditions of the tribes of Northeast India, does not mean that they are not democratic. Majority anyways have women participation. Slaves are not well-defined system over here. So if some European has written that slaves were not allowed, we first need to understand the slavery from our own perspective. And excommunicated people, the people in jail even in India are not allowed to vote even in the modern electoral system. So all these things are something which we need to understand. But the whole thing is that although modern democracy was unknown to them till recently, the idea of democratic governance has always been present in these societies. Traditional democracy in Northeast India are largely direct, participatory, and deliberative. When I say direct, means everybody is involved. When I say participatory, every person of that tribe has a say, has a chance to become the leader, has a voice in the decision making. And when I say deliberative, it simply means that they all sit down and discuss. If there is an issue, it is discussed. If there is a problem, it is discussed. If there is a decision making, it is based on the discussion and then a common consensus. So these are the major aspects of any democracy, and these are present there in Northeast India. And what is beautiful and relevant is that even till date, there is a conscious attempt to reach a consensus. That is how they carry their internal governance. Even till date, even after the imposition of modern electoral democracy, to which also they are a majority participant. They don't defy the modern electoral politics. They are a participant. They very willingly participate in that. The only thing is that when it comes to their own tribe, their own clan, they prefer their own system, their own tradition for their internal decision making. Northeast India is full of tribal diversities, and obviously for a lecture of this length, I academically am unable to cover almost all the tribes, even those tribes which I have covered in my paper, which is to be published, which is to be released in the book, which is to be released tomorrow. But for today, I would like to convey some examples from the tribes of Sikkim, the land from where I am right now, then Assam and Arunachal. These are the three states which I would like to cover right now for this sake, for the lecture of today. And academic, I accept my academic limitation and also the time restriction for delving into the diverse zones of the tribal society of Northeast India, the complete Northeast India. To start with Sikkim, Denzong, the land of Kanchenjunga, the protective deity. It's a beautiful place, place full of natural beauty, the land of Tista, the land of Rangit, the land of Kanchenjunga, and the land of Gumphas. It's also the land of the autochthones of Sikkim, that is Lepcha. And that is the first tribe that I would like to narrate to you today, the Lepcha tribe. They have been there since time immemorial. They are the people of the land. They worship the land. They worship the mountains. They are nature worshippers, and they are totally closely associated with the land. Their identity is completely merged with the land. These people, when we look into their tribes, they do have the concept of kingship. So the argument could be that if they have a king, how can they have a democratic tradition? But their kingship is not hereditary. It is in existence, but it is based on selection of the tribe. So the post is there, like the post of the prime minister, but that it is not hereditary. It is not based on family. It is based on the ability of the person to lead. The king is not hereditary. There is a king, but the king is elected by the people. Whenever there is a social dispute, whether it is pertaining to land or inheritance, then the decision of Rong Kati, that is a member council consisting of the 10 principal clans of Lepcha, the elders from the 10 principal clans of Lepcha, that is a member council, Rong Kati. So whenever there is a dispute, it is referred to that, and their decision is binding on all. Even in case of adoption, in case a person wants to adopt a child, it's for the sake of inheritance, for the sake of continuity of his clan, his family, even then it has to be a social decision taken by Rong Party, a decision referred to them, and only when the elders approve of it, this action can take place, otherwise not. So, that is a very personal decision, but even then, because it affects the identity of the family, the clan, the inheritance and everything, so that also is a social decision which is referred to the elders, and then their decision is binding. There is a Lepcha reserve in Sikkim. That is the land which is specifically reserved for Lepcha. And the governance is still administered by the group of elders, generally male elders, although it is not that women do not have a voice, but generally male elders, because the male elders from the family, they become a part of the governing council. And so this council is there. This group is known as Chodu Mukhtiar. And then there is a Mandal, who is followed by Japun and Yomi. And they are entrusted with authority to discuss any matter arising in the region and take a binding decision. Collection of revenue, solving of social problems, even giving punishment to guilty was their duty till the merger with India. and also till the imposition of Panchayati Raj of Act of 1965. No, but the thing is that although panchayat elections do take place and panchayats are very much functional, and people, just a week back we had the panchayati elections, and had you been in Sikkim at that time, you would have known the zeal and the fervor with which these people take part in panchayat elections. It is almost like a festival. We probably people from Pains don't even participate in Lok Sabha election with that zeal and fervor with which the people of Sikkim, they participate in Panchayati Raj elections. And I'm really happy to see that much electoral consciousness among these people. But I would like to stress on this. But despite of the fact that they value Panchayati Raj, they honor the panchayats and they participate in Panchayati system, yet their own system holds within the community, and it works very beautifully in coherence with the Panchayat system. It works very beautifully in coherence with the Panchayat. I mean, they complement each other. They are not against each other. They don't clash with each other. They actually complement each other, and these tribal communities, these tribal groups, they help Panchayat in proper functioning and dealing of the issues in that area. Another tribe of Sikkim is Bhutia, and they have a traditional system of self-governance which is called Jhumsa. Jhumsa actually means the meeting place of people. So that's exactly what it is, like a Panchayat, and it still exists and is functional and is very much in effect among the people. As per oral narratives and British record, this system exists at least since first half of the 19th century. That is the time when actually the ninth Chogal, Chuchup Namgyal, he created the institution and assigned Phipon as the village chief and delegated authority to him to look after the villages under him. Even after the enactment of Panchayati Raj, this institution, as I told earlier, still functions and assists the Panchayat. It is not in clash with the Panchayat. It functions in coherence with the Panchayat. The Council of Representative, which is functioning, is known as Lehan, and two Phipons are there, and they are assisted by Gyapons, and together they build a crucial link between the state government and the people of their region till date. So the democratic tradition of the age-old democratic traditions of these tribes has found a coherence with the modern electoral politics, and it is still functioning, providing not only a link between the state and the people, but also providing the people a platform of confidence where through tradition they can approach. They are assured that their tradition, their traditional values, their cultural values will stay alive, not interfered by the modern constructs, and yet they are very much a part of the modern society. Moving away from Sikkim, I would like to approach Bodoland. That is another tribal area in Assam, and a little bit overflowing to the other states also. Now, when we go through the British narratives of the Bodo people, we find that they often refer to them as very clannish people who are very coherent, and if one single Bodo is punished for something, the complete clan will react to it. And the tea garden managers used to face a whole lot of problem during the British period, because if one Bodo was somehow terminated or troubled, then the complete clan would move out. They would not even care for their livelihood. They would not even care for the punishment they are going to receive. They'll stand together as a single unit with their own people, and they'll move out. They'll leave the tea garden, they'll leave the job, and obviously the problem would be faced by the manager, but their unity, their cohesion, it shows that they are highly democratic. And how they are highly democratic is that their own society functions on the basis of a single unit system, which is ideally controlled by an elderly person called Gao Buddha. Actually, the word is Gao Buddha. It is a Bodo word. But when I look at this word from the perspective perspective of a North Indian Hindi speaking person, I can break it into two, Gaon and Buddha. It is not supposed to be broken like that. To understand the tribal tradition, I broke it like that. That Gaon and Buddha, so an elderly person of the village would be the Gaon Buddha. And he presides over all the meetings of the villagers. He is selected by the villagers on the basis of his sagacity, on the basis of his understanding of the tradition, his knowledge, and his willingness to be a just person. But the most beautiful thing is that there is no term attached to this particular post. That person stays in the post only till he enjoys the popularity among the people. The day people start doubting his sagacity, he has to leave that. So, this particular aspect is so democratic that you are a leader only till the people accept you. You cannot be imposed on the people. You cannot be a person who is not ready to listen to the people and yet be their leader. So if you are not ready to listen to the people, you lose your popularity, you lose your leadership. So this is a complete democratic tradition. The person who assists this Gao Buddha is Halmaji. He is a village chowkidar. He keeps a tab on everything that is happening in the village. He'll meet people, listen to their problems, and convey to the Gao Buddha so that if the village council is needed to be called, that person will call, and the problem would be then discussed among all the people, and the Gao Buddha will give his decision based on the discussion and the common consensus reached. So, now moving on from Bodos, so the most democratic area in Northeast is Arunachal Pradesh. I'll just deal with two tribes right now, but that is the place which is the most democratic. The tribes of Arunachal Pradesh, even when we go through the British record, they say that the kind of tradition, that the kind of sagacity, the kind of inclusiveness that is shown by the tribe is not found anywhere. The most democratic community, we can say, when we studied the different tribes of Northeast India, was Adi. That is a tribe of Arunachal Pradesh. And as long as memory serves, and as long as records were written, they have a council known as Kebang, through which administration, legislation, and judiciary, all functions are exercised. Even till date, although they are a participant in modern democratic process, and they are very much willing participant, they don't have any problem with the democratic India, but the only thing is that within their community, they still have their own traditions. Now, Noctus or the village elders are the integral part of these councils. Laws are framed by the people. Now, mark my word, this is the difference. In a democracy, in a modern democracy, we elect our lawmakers. They make the law and they enact it. But in among Adis, the laws are made by the people. It's a reverse process. The people make the law. Then the council sanctions it. And then the council leader or the village head, he declares. It's absolutely the other way. The people make the law according to their need, according to their sensitivity, according to their understanding. The laws are not imposed by the lawmaker. What could be more democratic? We talk about Lokpal, we talk about this, we talk about that. This is what we have in our tradition. That the people every day, every evening, they come to the council house, they gather there, they discuss, they inform, they deliberate. Whatever has happened throughout the day, whatever they faced, there were the days when invasions were taking place, there were the days when incursions were taking place by the British authority, by the other people. Every evening they would come to their council. They would sit down, they would meet, they would discuss. When they discuss, they decide about the next days to come. Okay, till now we have done like this, but this does not seem to be fitting for the next days. What should we do? Then they'll all discuss, they'll all decide what is to be done. Once a decision is made, that decision is then subject to the village elders. And the village elders did, and then once they think that what decision has been taken by the people, it is correct, then they convey it to the chief. Otherwise, it goes back to the people and it is again deliberated. And then finally, when a decision is made, it is announced by the chief. It is not made by the chief. It is not sanctioned by the chief. The chief has only one work to do, that is announcing the decision. He has no influence over the decision making. He only has to implement whatever is proposed by the people and approved by the council. Now, this is a perfect example of direct participatory democracy. And believe me, it is still a very functioning and vibrant form of direct democracy among the Adi tribe of Arunachal Pradesh. Another tribe about which I would like to convey today is Monpas of Arunachal Pradesh. It also has village councils which are highly participatory, involving all men and women. Now, no barring, no, that all men, all women of the tribe, every evening they will gather, they will discuss, deliberate, and take decisions, except those who are excommunicated. That is understandable. If you have done something against the tribe, if you are going against tribe, if you have harmed something, if you have broken certain rules, obviously you are not ready to stand with your own people. You are not ready to follow your own tradition. You will be excluded from the decision making. Your opinion not be suitable to the common good. So that's the only thing. Those who are excommunicated, they are excluded. Otherwise, everybody is participant. And these councils, they govern on democratic basis. It can be traced back to 11th century. That is the first record that we get, actually, 11th century, when the tribe actually decided a shift from the kingship to the deliberative democratic practices. And then certain changes were introduced around 16th century, where basically the headships were changed and they were renominated, denominations were changed and all that. So now what we can see is that the tribal governance, the first point which I would like to make is, it is not static. It is not like something written on stone. It is not something which cannot change. It is based on deliberation and direct participation. And it is extremely responsive to the changing times. So right from time immemorial, from where we can trace the oral histories, the oral narratives, the traditions, we can see that till date they are functioning, and not only functioning, they are functioning in coherence with the modern concept of democracy. So they adopt, they restructure, and they change according to the changing needs of the people. Now, this system where demos needs are taken care of, not that, okay, we have written this and you have to follow this, no matter whether it is suitable to the times or not.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, your network, I think you have a very low bandwidth. The voice is not clear.
Voice is not clear. Change my network. Actually, I'm in a guest house, so
Okay.
maybe I'm.
Arvind,
Just give
okay,
me 2
continue
minutes,
pantam,
I'll
continue
shift to
pantam.
another.
Let me continue, madam, no problem.
Can I continue?
Yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay, sir. Okay. Anyway, just 2 minutes more. Then I would like to take some opinion of you people. Basically, I have attempted to make the essence of democracy, democratic traditions of Eastern tribes, to use significant examples to you all. What we need to understand is that although time-tested and relevant, such traditions not fit into the definition of European notions of democracy, as defined by the political scholars and by the modern political constitutes. But when understanding the culture of the society, when understanding Bharat, that is what we are all trying to do right now, when our Honorable Prime Minister expressed his desire to understand Bharat as the janani of Loktantra in the entire world, the tradition, the culture that initiated the concept of Loktantra. So when we are trying to understand the culture and society of Bharat, which had strength and resilience to survive hundreds of years of subjugation and destruction, and yet was able to retain its culture, its identity. You see, when we go through the UNESCO documents, what we find is that Bharat is the only surviving living heritage of the world. All the other traditions have completely been destroyed, have undergone drastic changes that they cannot identify with their older selves. We can still do that. And that is because of these traditions of ours. That is because of this culture of ours, the resilience which was given to us by culture. Culture is not dependent on political mastery, because we were the decision makers within our own tribes, within our own villages, and because our decision makers were our own people, our social disputes, our political disputes, were decided upon by our own people in a very democratic form. That is why it gave us strength to resist all the cultural constraints, the cultural invasions, the cultural interventions. And we were able to overcome the cultural intervention and survive as a single unit, survive as a nation, and still continue with our own cultural constructs, our identity and our values. We ought to appreciate the value system which helped us survive, and we ought to understand that Bharat is indeed the land where Loktantra involved. Loktantra, democracy in modern constructs might be a very different, but Loktantra is where Lok has the power over the system. The Jan has the power over it. And this is what we find in our own traditions. And I've just tried to define few traditions from the Northeast India. Across nation, when we look through from ancient till modern, we find so many examples, and that is what that book is all about, because of which the UGC has given this responsibility to us. We have evolved a system which has helped us survive political onslaught as an ancient cultural unit and as a single entity. We have survived, we have the resilience, we have the continuity, and we will survive. And as our Prime Minister wishes and dreams of, one day our nation will be again the Vishwa Guru by acceptance of all the others of our culture, our cultural values, and our cultural. Thank you. Jai Hind. Jai Bharat.
Arvind Raj. Arvind Raj.
Yes, sir.
Okay, continue.
Okay, yeah.
Madam முடிச்சிட்டாங்க.
Question.
If there are any questions, I would like to take them.
So, dear participants, if you have any questions, you can post it in the question and answer session.
Madam, now this Sikkim and this Assam and the central these tribals are living their following their own traditions and all, no? So there will not be any interferences of political parties.
Sir, let me make this clear. They follow their own tradition along with the democratic electoral democratic tradition. They are a participant in both. Political parties is certainly a different aspect. When it comes to their own society, they follow their own traditions, their own norms. When it comes to the state and national politics, they follow the political system as defined by the modern electoral system. So they are continuing with their tradition and culture, and that is perhaps the beauty of the Panchayati Raj which we implemented, because at the time of implementation only we had decided that we will not disturb the tradition. India perhaps is the only land where we decided that we will not disturb the cultural traditions. And if there are democratic traditions existent in the area, we will try to merge them with the Panchayati Raj. And that merger has turned out to be a very beautiful conglomerate. And we find a perfect coherence between tradition of tribals, which they were allowed to continue. So there was no resistance because we did not interfere with their identity, with their society. And yet Panchayati Raj was there to help them out. So they were in coherence with each other. Political parties certainly are there, sir, because the national politics and the state politics will not survive on the basis of small tribal electoral system. So they participate in democracy as in modern concept, but they also have their own traditions which they can for their own time.
Madam, regarding the involvement of their children in
Yes, sir.
education and other things, what is the percentage is there,
Yes,
madam?
sir.
Whether now recently the government of India has come out with a lot of facilities and scholarships and all. So how
Yes,
their
sir.
education and other things and all promoted by these tribals?
Sir, they are very much conscious of the educational needs of their own younger generation, and they are all participating. I mean, I'm in Sikkim and in a central university, and we have out of a batch, some roughly around 80% would be from the tribal zones of our own area, from Assam also. So obviously these and because we are dealing with post-graduation. So if post-graduation they are in such high number, you can understand in undergraduation also. So the students, the younger generation is well educated. And obviously the East policy of the present government has also provided a lot of things. You know, schools are being opened and panchayats are also very conscious in promoting the information, in disseminating the information about the scholarships available. Recently, NCST is also organizing its programs all across India, and there is a flagship program of informing all the students about the scholarships available and the facilities available. So obviously that is also promoting. So they are coming out. They are very much willing participant in educational process and cooperating.
Okay, thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
சொல்லுங்க அரவிந்த் ராஜ், இன்னொரு சொல்லுங்க.
Yes, sir.
Any-
No, we are waiting for any questions from the participants.
Yeah,
I think we don't receive any.
So
We
what
had
there
a
is one question. There is one question.
pros and cons of the different democratic tradition in Northeast India. This is the question, ma'am.
Yes. Yeah, that's the question. क्या आपको लगता है कि अलग लोकतांत्रिक परंपरा का इस्तेमाल कर कुछ भारत की खूबसूरती को बांटने के लिए? Yes, Rajdeep, that is always a problem that how we define tradition and how we actually try to understand the question of inclusiveness and exclusiveness will always be problematic so far as the modern democracy is concerned. We were trying to define the traditional democracy. Traditional democracy has inclusiveness. The traditions are always inclusive. They are participative, they always involve everyone. But when we try to understand the European notion of democracy, which is implemented in the wider area in terms of electoral democracy, the political parties certainly have a major role to play. And they can be both, they can be both the promoters of diversity and exclusiveness and the promoters of unity and inclusiveness. It will depend upon their own political ideology as well as on their own perspective of the nation and their own, connectivity and their own loyalty towards their nation. People will always try to exploit the diversity. They will always try to exploit the diversity with negativity. They'll always try to make people think, oh, you are not the same as the other person. The other person looks different. The other person speaks different. No, there'll always be political parties and people who would try to take advantage of differences and diversities. What we have in mind when we were writing this volume And what we have in mind when we are promoting these lectures is that we should make the younger generation at least understand that, as I said in the start with, that we have a unity of diversity, not unity in diversity. Unity of diversity is that our nation is one big banyan tree. The different branches are different people. They who would have different cultural identities, who would have different social identities, linguistic identities, but they are branches of the same tree. They cannot be diversified and they won't exist without that trunk, the main trunk, which is Bharat. But unity in diversity is kind of, when you think that many diverse trees are planted in the same jungle area, and because they are bound by the same forest area, so they are bound to be unified. That becomes a bit difficult because, every tree would have its different identity. And if every tree would have its different identity, its seed might raise a different forest. And that would create problem for the other trees, and other trees also might try to raise a difference. And if this is the case of nation, then it would be problematic. So unity in diversity is less important and it should be avoided. Unity of diversity is important and it should be promoted. So the whole idea of promotion is promotion of the Loktantra, the Bharat Janani of Loktantra, is that we need the people to understand the diverse cultural identities of the nation and yet the unifying cultural thread among them. So that's my point. I hope I answered it.
Any other questions from the participants? Hope your session was so informative, ma'am. Shall I? The question session is over. Shall I proceed, sir?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes.
No,
I'll proceed with the vote of
it's
thanks,
okay.
sir. Yes, ma'am. If we receive any other questions later, I will be mailing you, ma'am, the questions, and I'll communicate with the
No,
One more
participants.
question.
One more question. Only the
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you, madam.
Yeah, we have
No,
one
no.
more question here. Oh, no, it's thank
No,
you
there
from
is
that.
no question. It's just thank
Okay.
you, ma'am.
Yes.
There's no question. It
So,
was just thank you.
now, greetings to all. I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose a vote of thanks for this special lecture on democratic traditions among the tribes of Northeast India. I thank the UGC for initiating such a wonderful field of lecture series, and I thank the management and all the respected higher officials for providing resources for organizing the event. My heartfelt thanks to our guests of the day, Professor Dr. Renu Pant, Professor and Head, Department of History, Sikkim University, for accepting our invitation and spared her valuable time in sharing her knowledge on democratic traditions among the tribes of Northeast India. I thank our respected registrar, Professor Dr. B. Jaikar, for his guidance and support for execution of this informative session. I also thank our Deputy Director Academics, Dr. A. Rajan Samuel sir, for gracing the occasion with his presence throughout the session. I thank Dr. A. Nagappan, Director Innovations, who is a pillar of this special lecture session, without whom the event may not be possible to be organized. I thank Dr. S. Gokulakannan, NSS Program Coordinator, VMR of DU, for his best efforts in coordinating the event. I thank all the coordinators who actively helped to successfully transmit the event. Last but not the least, I thank all the participants from various parts of the country for your valuable presence and making the event as a grand success. Thanks to all of you for being with us. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.